All right, we're rolling. Hello, and welcome to Serve the Wyoming Way, a new podcast brought to you by the Grizzly Six.
Six.
The goal of this podcast is to provide you with conversations our leaders will be having throughout the state and will help educate our listeners about opportunities in the Wyoming Army National Guard and volunteer opportunities in their very own communities. And the ultimate goal of this is to grow our partnerships. I am Master Sergeant Jacqueline Marshall from the Wyoming National Guard Public Affairs Office. I'll be facilitating this podcast here in beautiful Pinedale. And leading today's conversation is Brigadier General Steve Alkire, Commander and Assistant Adjutant General of the Wyoming Army National Guard. General Alkire is responsible for the readiness, training, leadership, and strategic planning for more than 1,500 soldiers in support of state and federal mission requirements. He has been serving this country for over 35 years. Welcome, General Alkire.
Thank you, Sergeant Marshall. I appreciate it.
And our guest today on the show is Chief Shad Cooper. Chief Cooper is the fire chief for Sublette County Unified Fire, an organization with 6 fire stations and 85 volunteers. Shad has more than 26 years of firefighting experience in Wyoming. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Public Safety Administration from Grand Canyon University, and he is a graduate from the National Fire Academy Executive Fire Officer Program, and Shad has served on the International Fire Service Training Association Essentials of Firefighting Validation Committee for the 6th edition, 7th edition, and 8th edition training manuals. And he currently sits on the International Fire Service Training Association Chief Officer 5th edition Validation Committee. Shad also serves as the president of the Wyoming State Fire Advisory Board, and he also volunteers for the Wyoming Firefighter Cancer Support Network. That's a lot. You do a lot. You're a busy person. So thank you for being here, and thank you for letting us do this podcast here with you, opening your doors to us. Let's start with you. Why was this partnership started?
Oh, good. Well, thank you very much for scheduling this podcast. I really appreciate your time and look forward to the opportunity to visit with you and talk about some of the challenges that we have in the Wyoming Fire Service regarding recruitment and retention, and some of those challenges may be very similar to what's being faced by Wyoming National Guard. So to answer your question, the general had reached out to me and had mentioned that that in the post-COVID environment that we've seen similar challenges in the Wyoming Fire Service and in the National Guard regarding recruitment and retention of our folks, and some of the challenges that I face in as being a fire chief in Sublette County is how do we recruit firefighters that are interested in volunteering and helping their communities, and being there when their neighbors have an emergency and trying to be part of that solution to respond and help out and resolve that emergency. It's hard to find people that have the time to commit and be part of that, and that's a big ask. And there's definitely a certain demographic of people that have that civic minded community orientation that are interested in being there, and we try to cater and recruit and find those folks in our community. And so I think there's some oversight there that is necessary for me as the chief to try to facilitate that and try to recruit, bring in good firefighters. I think there's some similarities in the types of people that we try to recruit to our volunteer fire service, and I think that's probably why the general had reached out to us.
Can you touch on that from your standpoint, General Alkire?
Sure. So, we're right here in the middle of Pinedale in Chief Cooper's office, and we just came from his command and staff meeting. And I will tell you, I have the opportunity to serve with over 1,500 professional soldiers. And I will tell you, we met with his staff, from the 6 battalions, and what a bunch of professionals. So when the Chief Cooper talks about what we have in common. When I reached out to Chief Cooper, the Army Guard staff, my guidance to them was, hey, tell me where we have organizations that we have commonalities with. And of course, we have 2 firefighters on the staff, volunteers, and they said, hey, let's start to reach out to the volunteer fire chiefs. And so, the staff reached out to Chief Cooper, we met, and really it's about what we have in common, those that want to serve. Right now, it's kind of tough in terms of the recruiting volunteer firemen and members of the National Guard. And so this podcast is really for guardsmen. It's for, the chief and his folks and anyone who wants to serve. And I will tell you, there's, the chief in the meeting today, he's got 4 members of his fire department who are National Guardsmen. So you can find work-life balance by having a great family, serving your employer, being in the Guard, and being in the volunteer fire department. That means your plate's full. But I will tell you, there's 4 just in the Chief's Department in Sublette County that are doing that right now. And so, quality folks, and each of us strive to have those kind of qualities in our organizations. And so I think that's why when the chief and I decided to do this podcast, we think we can, in this partnership where we both can mutually benefit from getting quality folks in our organizations.
We try really hard to provide incentives for our volunteer firefighters. So when a new volunteer prospective candidate comes and meets with me and fills out an application, generally without fail, they don't even realize that we provide some of the benefits that we do. But the reason why we provide those benefits is because first we want to try to provide incentives to our volunteers not only to join the fire department but to continue to stay with the fire department for as long as possible. But when I introduce the new potential candidates and meet with them and explain what those benefits are, one of the things we do is provide it's called a paper call is the way we do it in Sublette County. But when a new recruit finishes the graduation recruit academy, they immediately start receiving $20 per incident that they respond to. Now, some of those incidents might be 15 minutes long. Some of those incidents might be 4 hours long. So that's the reason why it's not an hourly wage. There's definitely other models that we could use, but that's what fits our organization and our needs. But that's one example of a small benefit. But then we also provide a retirement program for all volunteer firefighters in the state of Wyoming are eligible for to participate in the Wyoming retirement system. It's a special retirement program specifically for volunteer firefighters. But when I joined the volunteer fire department, I was 19 years old, and based on my years of service, when I reach my retirement age, I'll make almost $800 a month. Now, it's not enough for me to retire on by any means, but it's certainly, a supplement to my retirement and something that I'm going to appreciate when I do get to that age. And we have many firefighters in our organization that, are looking forward to receiving that benefit. And, after years of contribution to the system, it's kind of a nice pat on the back and something to look forward to and feel some appreciation for those years of service. But there's a lot of things that I think that we could be doing for our volunteer firefighters that we struggle to provide some benefit for them above and beyond what I just mentioned. So right now we're trying to explore if there's opportunities to open up group healthcare plans and provide healthcare benefits for our firefighters. What we're finding is that's actually a pretty difficult challenge to address. And so I'm trying to explore other opportunities. And when General and I met in Cheyenne a couple of months ago, that was one of the things that we talked about is maybe there's an opportunity to overlap when we have volunteer firefighters that are also members of the National Guard that might be able to use those benefits to enhance both and those healthcare benefits and some of the accidental death and dismemberment policies and some of those kind of things that we really struggle to financially provide for our firefighters. Now don't get me wrong, we address some of that and we in my opinion we do a very good job of taking care of our volunteer firefighters. and making sure that they have excellent coverage. But there's definitely some things that I want to do as a fire chief to continue to build on and improve and enhance that coverage. And I think that's where some of this partnership can come in. I'll defer to the general on this.
Sure. So there's always a tangible benefits for serving. It's just the bottom line sometimes of what we do. And so if you ask me the tangible benefits of serving the National Guard, first one is retirement. Like the chief said, serving part-time in both careers in the National Guard and volunteer fire department, and volunteer fireman, you can have 2 retirements. We have health and dental. So when the chief talks about how the federal government serving in the Guard can augment some of the benefits of a volunteer fireman. We have TRICARE Reserve Select. A single soldier can pay $46 for medical care. He can pay if he's got a family, it's $230. What about dental? It's $29 for a single and $75 for a family. So immediately by serving part-time, and you try to compare that in the private sector, I tell you, you just can't find it. So 2 great benefits right off the bat. Serving the Guard on a drill weekend, people have families. The state legislature was able to provide us with a resolution and some money to provide daycare on a drill weekend. Mm-hmm. We've got the ability to get trained. We've got federal, state, and reimbursement. For college. But also we've got just in the last couple months on a drill weekend, many of our soldiers travel to drill. And so if you live over 150 miles from where you drill, we'll pay you up to $500 because we have soldiers that travel, that fly in. And so in terms of the tangible benefits, we've got life insurance, $400,000 for $25 a month. And so those are unique benefits to being in the National Guard, but would truly augment any volunteer. Some are taking advantage of it right now. So like the chief said, I think our benefits can mutually support each other.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I mean, there's so many, just like you mentioned, there's the new one that just came out with helping with childcare. That's a great benefit. So do you think part of also doing this podcast, I know we're both having retention, recruiting issues, but we're also educating people that may just not even know?
Oh, I think so. I mean, I've had some brother-in-laws that served on a volunteer fire department. I didn't know there was a retirement. I didn't know that there's ability to, the benefits that you get. I just didn't know that from the volunteer fire department to pay for education. I just didn't know that. And so absolutely, I think there's an education here from both mine and the chief's perspective that, people can make an informed, the right decision for them in their lives when they're informed. And so that's really one of the benefits of this podcast. Chief, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. You'd mentioned some of the tangible benefits, but when I meet with new recruit firefighters, I try to focus more on maybe some of the other benefits that maybe aren't financial, and so I usually try to talk to them about the why of joining the fire department, and when I have the first introductory meeting, we always talk about why are you joining the fire department, and what brought you into the door, and what are you looking for, and almost without fail when I really talk with the firefighters and delve into it. It's always about serving the community first and foremost. That's always a really common answer, and I think highly of our firefighters that use that want to be here for the right reasons. That they want to. When somebody dials 911, I think I mentioned this earlier, but when somebody dials 911, they're having the worst day of their life. They could be having a fire, a wildland fire, a structure fire, a car wreck, whatever the emergency is. When they're dialing 911, they're looking for help. And when somebody joins the volunteer fire department, it's because they want to be there to help their neighbor out when they're having that worst day of their life. They want to be there and be part of that solution and make that a little bit better. And so that's one of the reasons that I think drives a lot of people to want to serve and be part of their community, is they want to be part of that solution. and beyond that, there's another thing that I think really draws a lot of people to the fire department, and then also retains them and keeps them with the fire department for a long time, and that's the camaraderie. The esprit de corps, the friendships that you develop in the organization. You don't walk away from those friendships lightly. And when you join the volunteer fire department, the camaraderie really keeps you in the organization for a long time as well. There's also a sense of preparedness. When there's an emergency that happens in the county, fire, flood, earthquake, tornado, whatever it is, the volunteer fire department is going to be there, and we're going to respond to it. But our firefighters are going to be well trained, capable, and competent, and be ready for whatever they face. And you'll probably notice a lot of similarities between some of those non-tangible benefits as in the fire service as well as in the military. And I'd like to hear what General has to say about that.
I think it's the tangible benefits that sometimes get you in the door. I mean, I joined the Guard a long time ago, in September of 1987, because I needed to pay for college. But soon to be 35 years later, it's not what kept me in. And so although a tangible benefit might help at the time, it's not why a firefighter is answering the phone or open the page at 3 a.m. when it's 20 below and there's a car wreck. There ain't near enough money to pay for that. It's not why a guardsman, leaves his family for a year to deploy. Mm-hmm. It's just not there. So although those tangible benefits are important and may get you in the door, it's not why you serve, and it's not why you continue to do it. There's something beyond that. When we were downstairs, we went to the chief's training meeting and talking to some of the leaders. One of his leaders said, "Hey, I've served for 23 years," and I said, "Why are you still here?" He said, I don't know. I don't really know other than it's just community service." And so that's probably the best way to put it. You wouldn't know this guy's probably one of the guys who cares most about his community. He just does it because it gives him purpose. And so that's really what, as I talked about education, first responders, volunteer firemen. I tell you, they serve in their community and you don't even know who they are. Like the chief said, when you call 911, it's the worst day of your life. This guy or gal, they're going to be there. And so it's a pretty neat organization. And I would encourage any guardsman, if you have the desire to do that, go to your local volunteer fire department, talk to the fire chief, and I tell you, check it out. Because I tell you that he was just a great example of satisfaction and community service.
Everything that you're both saying is so overlapping. From when you talk to military folks, and it sounds so similar. The purpose, why do I serve? I want to help my community. It makes sense. If you want to volunteer, you want to help your community. If you're already serving, join the fire department, and vice versa. So I think it makes complete sense. It sounds like recruiting for the fire department, it's not just an issue here in Sublette County. Is it across the whole state?
Yeah, absolutely. When I speak to fire chiefs, across the state, there's without fail, every chief in the state is struggling and trying to find volunteers and trying to keep the volunteers in the organization. It's ubiquitous that the Wyoming Fire Service is struggling to recruit and maintain volunteers, and it's what drives the organization. It's the heartblood of the organization. When we have fire stations and we have fire trucks and gears and equipment and everything down there that is necessary to bring to an emergency, but none of it's of any value whatsoever without the volunteer firefighters to staff the trucks and respond to the emergencies and resolve the emergencies. And so it's absolutely the most critical challenge that I face, far and above anything else that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. It's the most pressing matters in my day-to-day operation, and everything that I do is focused on recruitment and retention. And I'm certainly not unique. There's fire chiefs across the entire state that are struggling with the same issues that I am, and they absolutely would love the opportunity to hear from somebody that's interested in joining the fire department. So I encourage everybody that is listening, that please reach out to your local volunteer fire department and initiate that conversation. We try pretty hard to be visible, and we certainly aren't hard to find. So please reach out and get involved and help out your community.
So on that, speaking more about recruiting options, General Alkire, can you talk a little bit about the red card enlistment option?
Sure. So, red cards, the chief can talk about it better, but it's a wildland firefighting certification. Mm-hmm. And so we do that at Camp Guernsey. Camp Guernsey is our training area up there between Wheatland and Torrington. And so it's an initiative that we are doing as part of this partnership. And so it's our tentative date is this January. We're going to hold a first responder symposium. Initially it was the first idea that when we met the chief, but in discussions with some sheriffs, highway patrol, and other first responders, they want to be part of it. And so that's the first thing we're going to do is have that symposium. As part of that symposium, we're going to offer to soldiers the opportunity. They'll go through red card training, and we can do that at Camp Guernsey. It'll be held at Guernsey. And then really we'll have the fire chiefs come in and then explain, so now you have your red card. Now here's what we can do and some next steps. Here's a potential career path for you and some opportunities. So I think it's an example of what this partnership can do. Chief, want to comment on that? And how close am I to being wrong?
You're spot on. When we do every year we do a recruit academy, and when the reason why we do it is we try to make sure that all of our volunteer firefighters are, they have a common operating picture in mind. They have a standardized training program, and the end result is proficiency in how we provide service. When we do our recruit academy, there's a significant amount of time that we spend on wildland firefighting, and it's exact same training. It's national training. It's standardized. It's offered by the National Wildland Coordinating Group, and it's a red card. It's actually an issued card that lists your credentials, your qualifications to perform when you're on an incident. And for our entry level firefighters, it's FFT2. The program is called S130 and S190 and L180. It's a combined course that we offer, and it's the introductory course on how to be safe on a wildland fire, and how to be part of the incident command structure, and what your expectations would be to perform assignments, and then how to work within that structure. It's the exact same training, whether you go work for the Forest Service or the BLM or local volunteer fire department or with the military. And, one thing, I can't speak for all chiefs in the state by any means, but I know locally if we had a member from the Guard that came and joined our fire department, we would look very highly on them if they've already had that training, and we certainly wouldn't make them do it again. They'd be, one step ahead, and rather than going through the training again, though, what I have done in the past is encouraged new recruits to be part of the training program and help teach the rest of the recruits when they come on board. But absolutely, it's a big part of our standard training program, and I'm excited to hear that there's an opportunity for us to work together and offer that training and mutually benefit.
Is there other opportunities or other areas that you both haven't talked about yet that you think that we could help each other with?
I think more informally, and let me give you an example. An hour ago, talking to the chief's command staff, and I just asked a question. I said, so if you've got folks that, perhaps choose not to participate anymore, 6-7 months, what do you do? Because sometimes we have the same problem in the Guard. It's, being in the Guard is a values-based proposition, so we need to add value to their lives, or else why come to drill? And so it's a problem that we've got in the Guard that we're going to get it right. And so, we're able to share ideas, and one of his, captains said, hey, I recommend this book, and this is what I'm doing. and he's a former Guard guy from North Dakota. And I tell you, it's an idea that we're gonna take back and look at. So right now, the initiative that we have right now is the First Responder Symposium. We're going to get together at the rural fire chiefs meeting in December. But I think informally sharing those ideas will add tremendous value. And so a partnership, is built over a period of time. And so right now I think it's a little premature to figure out what the next step is formally. But I tell you informally, just that one idea, I tell you, it has caused me to think, now how do we talk to a soldier who perhaps chooses to go do something else? Because there's a reason that soldier joined the Guard, and there's something happening in that soldier's life that he chooses not to come to drill. We just got to figure out what that is and help him out.
One thing I heard earlier in the meeting too was, what level of engagement does the Guard have with local communities, and I think in my own mind at that time, what I was thinking is, well, that the members that make up the National Guard are really from the communities. They're the members that are in the communities, and it's an excellent opportunity is for us to have volunteer firefighters that are members of the National Guard. But one of the things that does is it gives us a working relationship to start from, a strong partnership to start from. If I need something, I've got people within my organization that I can reach out to and help serve as liaison for me, and facilitate communications. And they're part of my organization. They're part of the community, and they're part of the Guard. And I think building on those relationships, to the General Alkire's point, is maybe more of an informal benefit, but it's something that I want to continue to try to promote and enhance within our own organization, because I see significant amount of potential in the future that next time we have a major incident or incident of significance, that we're all going to be part of the same team working to find a solution.
This is why one of the reasons we're creating this partnership. Mm-hmm. And I kind of talked about it in the meeting today. Readiness starts with strength. Mm-hmm. And so, right now we're kind of having a tough time in the military assessing people into the National Guard. And so typically we've always gone we've got great soldiers coming out of high school. I mean, they're great soldiers. But we're kind of having a tough time assessing that high school age group. The demographic that we really haven't really touched on was age 23 to 32. And so, using the volunteer firefighters, the community colleges, maybe that demographic where, because when I was in high school, I was going to leave town and I'm never coming back. Well, then you go figure out what life looks like in college, and you determine that maybe home wasn't really that bad. And so you move home, you get married, you've got some kids, you got a good job, but maybe you still want to have the ability to serve. So that little more mature demographic, we're trying to touch on that too. While maintaining this demographic in high school, we're just trying to another avenue, educate those who are maybe a little more older in their later 20s. I mean, I was 22 when I joined. Mm-hmm. Let them know that, hey, there's still an opportunity in the Guard to serve, because readiness starts with strength. And so this is one way to broaden the aperture of folks that we want to talk about the National Guard with, because it's a great topic and I could talk about it all day. So that's really one of the benefits of this type of a partnership. Okay.
And I'm going to ask you this because we keep talking about it, but I don't think we've asked you. So Chief Cooper, why do you serve?
Oh, I think I've answered it, and in talking about, what the recruits do when they join the volunteer fire department. It's very universal. It's no different for me than it was for anybody else. I joined the volunteer fire department when I was 19 years old, and I knew several of the volunteers that were already on the department, and they had been talking to me about it and telling me about why they enjoyed it, and they encouraged me to do it. So that was certainly part of why I joined. But another reason why is I had a home, and I had a chimney fire, and the volunteer fire department responded, and they took care of my home. They really went above and beyond. They laid down tarps on the carpet to make sure not to track mud into my house, and they just exceeded my wildest expectations in providing customer service for me. And at the time, I didn't know anything really about what a volunteer fire department was or what they did. But with a pretty shining example, they demonstrated for me exactly what it is to be a volunteer and to help out their community. And during that incident, that was really when the light went off in my head. And I was like I said, I was young, kid. I was looking for direction and what I was going to do with my life. And everything lined up perfectly. And the firefighters there had encouraged me to join the volunteer fire department. And it was a month later. I was there meeting with them and submitting my application, and starting to really understand what it meant to be part of the community and to give back to my community and try to do something similar for my neighbor when it was their turn to call 911, is what they had done for me when it was my house on fire. So there's a variety of reasons that got me into the organization. But I think what kept me in the organization was like I'd mentioned, the camaraderie. I've been very close friends with the same firefighters that were on the department when I was 19 years old. We still talk to each other on a weekly basis, and it's that lifelong bond that you develop with people that you've been on some really tough incidents with, and we were there together, and afterwards we still stay in contact with each other, check up on each other, and we still go hunting together every year. We still go hiking together or fishing together or whatever it is. There's definitely a sense of a lifelong friendship that developed in the organization. And the thing is I can't ever walk away from it. I really I think that my life is pretty well defined by some of that service and some of that friendship, and then and I think General Alkire had mentioned it earlier, but being a true community member and providing service, and it defines what I do and why I do it. So I feel strongly I want to be part of the solution and make the best fire department we can and provide the best service we can for our community.
Very, very well said. One last question for you. So if I was a young man or woman listening to this podcast and I heard this and I called in and I'm kind of interested in joining, in one sentence or two, what would you tell them maybe to potentially help them join?
Reach out, find your local fire department, reach out and get involved and ask about how to join. It's the best decision of your life, in my opinion. It's something it's a lifelong rewarding career that I'm always receiving more benefit than I can ever attest or put any true value to. It's every time I show up to work, I enjoy doing what I do. I'm not a volunteer anymore. I'm now full-time administrator, but I still get tremendous amount of joy out of what I do, and I spent over 20 years as a volunteer and loved every minute of it, and it's one of the most important decisions of my life was to join the volunteer fire department, and I highly encourage everybody to get involved and you'll learn service to others is the most important thing in all of our lives. It's the most valuable and rewarding thing that we can do is provide service to others. So there's no better opportunity than to join the volunteer fire department and be part of your community and give service to others.
I agree very much. If it's serving in the community, volunteering for the fire department or in the military, I think it just makes you a better human. Thank you for sharing that, Chief Cooper, and thank you again for having us here today. So that brings us to the end of this first podcast, Serving the Wyoming Way. Thank you both for being here today. It was a very important conversation that we needed to have. And thank you for anyone that's listening out there. If you have questions, please reach out to your local fire department. Or if you're interested in Sublette County, who would they reach out to, Chief?
Thank you for asking. So reach out to Sublette County Unified Fire. You can reach us in our headquarters. Our phone number here is 307-367-4550. And give us a call anytime. And if we're not here, leave a message. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. And please, I highly encourage anybody and everybody. We're actively recruiting firefighters, and we sure love to have you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and share with your friends and family. Thank you for listening.